everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. We have a fabulous Wednesday show for you today. I'm selling it big time because we got new details on who the Clippers tried to pair with Kawhi before Paul George. The Cowboys are getting a big boost on offense. Wait till you hear. And will Patty Mahomes of the 2018 season be the Patty Mahomes of the 2019 season? That's where we start today. Chiefs opened up training camp yesterday, so how do you get better than the best? Well, that you can ask Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs stud quarterback coming off a year in which he threw for 50 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards and helped guide the Chiefs to the AFC title game last season. This season, sure, it'll be a challenge to repeat his numbers, but Mahomes says he's more focused on how far his team can go.
I mean, as a competitor, I'm going out there and trying to be the best quarterback I can be. And I think with the people around me, it's not about me trying to take a next step. It's about me just going within the offense and leaning on my teammates and letting them rise up with me. And I feel like that's something that we're going to try to do as a team, is just build with each other in order to take that next step as an offense and as a team.
He's under the microscope by everybody asking that same question. Has he changed? Has he done this or that? But I think when you're around him, you see that this is what he is. He grew up around this. He grew up around star players, even though it was baseball, and so he's not awed by any of it. He wants to be a great player in the National Football League, and he understands that there are certain things that I've got to take care of. There's a certain foundation I have to be great, and he's maintained that through this offseason.
All right, CC, this is year 3 for Patrick Mahomes, but it's essentially year 2 for playing 2 full seasons, not just that one game. So what's going to be the biggest challenge for him as he gets ready to start this new season?
He's going to have a number of challenges. Every NFL season has obstacles that you're going to face, regardless of what age you are, that being 22 or Tom Brady 42. Like, it doesn't matter. The game is that difficult. But what Patrick Mahomes, he has the benefit of having Andy Reid to be able to walk him through this, because Donovan McNabb, early in his career, he had a lot of success. There's been a lot of quarterbacks been successful early. How do they maintain that? Number one thing is he can't go back to the AFC Championship game and try to relive that. Trying to get back to the AFC Championship game, home field advantage, because then he would forget what he did last year. Because heading up into last season, no one had this type of expectations for Patty Mahomes. It's his first year starting. We had all types of questions. Is he going to be a leader? Can he do what he did the previous season in that little brief stint that he was in there? But it's hard for younger players not to get back to the highest moment, and that's that AFC Championship game. Let's go back to the first month of the season. He's not going to be able to duplicate those numbers that he put up. He was amazing from the beginning to the end, and also in the playoffs. So in doing that, I remember when I broke the NFL record in 1994, I had to make sure that I didn't get carried away in setting my goals the following season, even though I was able to get the receptions. But, it really wasn't realistic for me to duplicate that. And when you're having record-breaking seasons, you have to you're in a team sport, so you might have to share the ball. The defense might not be as good. Your running game might be better. The offensive line might not be able to protect the quarterback. So for me, don't take yourself. Let's go back through the whole process again. As hungry as you were last year when we started the season, have the same focus week in and week out. Don't get carried away. And those things are hard to impossible to do when you've been as successful as he was the first year.
Let's just remove 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards for the moment, because it's one of the 3 most prolific quarterback seasons anyone's ever had. So Mahomes could end up being a multiple-time MVP and never statistically duplicate that year as far as those raw numbers. So can he be as successful? Can the team be as successful as they were last year? The only reason the offense wouldn't be as good, even if the numbers aren't the exact same, is if the scrutiny and the pressure of expectations end up being a negative for this team. Because Cris is absolutely right that last year there was so much excitement surrounding Mahomes because he was the first quarterback the Chiefs had drafted in the first round since Todd Blackledge in the early 1980s. He was taking over for Alex Smith, who, while Alex Smith had done well in Kansas City, Chiefs fans had soured on in a way it was he'll be good but not good enough. And so it wasn't like it wasn't a situation where you're taking over for the Hall of Fame guy. And no, people were excited no matter what Patrick Mahomes would do, and he never had a moment of adversity. His worst month of football was December last year. In December, he had 13 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 106 rating. There wasn't that stereotypical bad 3-game stretch that you got to pull yourself up from. You would imagine something like that will happen this year, and you go into the season instead of with the hope being, hey, can the Chiefs get back to the playoffs? The expectations right now for the Chiefs are, can Mahomes repeat as MVP, and can they get to their first Super Bowl since Super Bowl IV? Like, is that going to be too much for any player, much less a player to your point?
I think that's too much.
Well, but that's what that is what is sitting on their shoulders.
Well, I think winning their division. I mean, they're in probably the toughest division in football. Winning their division, getting back into the playoff. They are not a perennial playoff contender. So just setting Super Bowl aspirations like right now, no. Most of the great offenses that we've had, one of those I was on, they did not duplicate those numbers in that following year. Even the greatest show on turf, they had some great seasons. They weren't able to duplicate that record-breaking season. Tom Brady, his best season ever. What did he do that following year? They weren't able to duplicate it. The 98 Vikings, highest scoring team in the history of the league at the time. They weren't able to duplicate it. So I would pump my brakes just a little bit because history would say, as you would tell me, history would say it's hard for the most prolific offenses to duplicate that the following year.
So when Eric Mangini's out here, he talks so much about part of the reason that the Patriots are so successful is because they never go into the year sort of thinking about what they did last year. It is a completely clean slate. They're starting at ground zero with everyone else, and a lot of teams just can't do that. They piggyback so much on the success they had. But how important is it for Patrick Mahomes to make sure you take everything what you had, put it in the rearview mirror and say, I'm starting fresh. Like, this is important to me to just start with the rest of my team. Yeah, we're going to kind of run it back. We have the similar team to we had last year, but we have to start where everyone else started, not at the AFC title game.
Yeah, I think he's done a pretty good job in the soundbite there. You hear him talking about his teammates, and he's got to build some rapport. Damian Williams, the running back, they have to get a consistent running game. They have to create some new niches with their offenses to keep defenses off balance. I think that Andy Reid, he will help control all that. But every game, every year is a story in itself, and none of them are written before the season. Look at all the seasons we tried to cover and been like, this team's going to do this, and we get it wrong. I would just expect the NFL will do certain things against Kansas City that they did against the other most prolific defenses. If you see in the playoffs, what did people think? People said, don't blitz Patty Mahomes. In the playoffs, that's what they did. So you can expect to see a more steady diet of that. How did the Chiefs adjust? And do their marquee players and their role players feel the role that Andy Reid sets out for them?
And I agree with Coach Mangini from a team perspective. But what is duplicable year over year and what teams do expect year after year is if you have a great quarterback in this league, and I believe Patrick Mahomes is that. I don't think he's just a great I think he is a great quarterback in this league, that you expect excellence from that position year after year. You hope they add something to their game, especially early in their career each year. So to me, the questions about the Chiefs, will they reach expectations? Will they be able to duplicate what they did last year? Are not really questions about Patrick Mahomes. It's will the defense be as bad as it was? Will Damian Williams be able to play a full season? Can Tyreek Hill duplicate the unbelievable production he had last season? Those, to me, are much bigger questions than about how good will number 15 be.
But if we're going to cover this league, we're going to question the quarterback, just like we questioned Tom Brady, and we've been questioning Tom Brady for the last 15 years. The most talented quarterback we have in the league is Aaron Rodgers, and every week we question Aaron Rodgers. Oh, is he really that good? Oh, if he was that good, why isn't he a force multiplier? Why isn't he winning more? Why can't he do more in the playoffs? So you can believe Patty Mahomes is going to get that same type of scrutiny. Ben Roethlisberger, oh, is he washed up? No. We scrutinize every quarterback in this league, and the ones that are better, we scrutinize them even more. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Patrick Mahomes, the rest of the book writes, because we're still early in it.
Right.
But Aaron Rodgers, successful very, very early, won a Super Bowl early. He's been under the scrutiny, so you can believe Patty Mahomes will be under the gun. Everything he does will be questioned.
All right, let's take a break, talk some basketball on the other side. Hey, how close did the Clippers get to trading for James Harden? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We'll get to Kawhi in a second, but first, minor league baseball. Syracuse Mets versus Indianapolis Indians. That's Mets second baseman Luis Guillorme fielding the bunt, makes an amazing between-the-legs throw to get the out.
I thought that was behind the back. That was nice. Nice stretch by the first baseman.
Yeah, the splits by the first baseman between the legs. That's spectacular. That's how you get on the show, minor league baseball.
Major League Baseball now.
Call him up.
Cards and Pirates, Tommy Edman backhands the grounder down the third base line. Nice jump throw to first, robbing Adam Frazier of a hit.
Oh, looking like a young Scott Rowland out there. Look at that. Cross the diamond. Perfect.
Yanks Twins, this was a great game. Aaron Hicks with the game-saving catch for the final out in the 10th inning to preserve the win for the Yankees.
He's not too far from where Chris Carter grabbed a couple of those, man. Downtown Minneapolis, he snatches it.
Oh, yeah.
To end the game for the against the Twins. Man, this was an amazing catch right here. Now, I know I'm hard on major leaguers, outfielders on their catches.
That you like?
But, man, it's a game winner, and landing on that track, he's got some cinder in his chest now.
And doing it with the bases loaded. That, if he doesn't get it, that scores all three.
My favorite part was yelling at the bullpen. Yeah, you got that? You see it? See the people in the bullpen right there?
Yeah, he's telling them go home. Good night. See y'all tomorrow.
Night, night.
Moving on to Kawhi Leonard, talks some basketball. His decision to join the Clippers brought him closer to his childhood home in California. But according to reports now, winning championships was more important to Kawhi than playing close to home. Interesting, since he passed on a chance to form a super team with the Lakers also close to home, which would almost guarantee him a title. Kawhi reportedly felt the best way to win would be to pair up with Paul George. So, Nick, were the Clippers the best chance for Kawhi to win when making his decision this offseason?
Of course not, but they were the right decision. Of course, him signing with the Lakers and pairing up with LeBron and Anthony Davis, if sports were only and exclusively about ring count, winning as many championships as easily and as quickly as possible, then that would have been the right decision.
But he said that's what was important to him.
The only decision. Well, yeah, that's part of what's important to him. But we can say this 1,000 times. All championships are not created equal, and Kawhi Leonard is trying to accomplish something that he can accomplish with the Clippers that he would not have been able to accomplish with the Lakers, which is win a title as the best guy, the unquestioned star in Toronto, and then go do it cross-coast, different country, new team, the next year, again, as the unquestioned best guy. So, no, sports are not just about the rings. And when we distill it all down to nothing matters but how many titles you've won, we are marginalizing the journey. It's not just about the end point. It's about the journey. And if Kawhi is able, not just this year, but to win a title at any point in the next few years with the Clippers, that will be such a greater individual accomplishment than if he had won a couple titles with LeBron and Anthony Davis with the Lakers. So, yes, championships are a part of it. And no, he didn't make the right decision if the only thing that mattered was how can I win a championship as quickly and easily as possible. But that's not the only goal. I don't even know if that's the ultimate goal, because how you win the title matters enormously in the story that is told of you as a player.
Kawhi orchestrated this, and this is I have to be very, very careful right here, because I want to make sure, because in communicating with Kawhi's team, make sure that what they've told me and my own personal opinion, make sure I'm able to divide those. Kawhi is about winning championships. Kawhi also believes he's the best player in the NBA. Best player in Los Angeles, Kawhi believes it's him. So the reason why he didn't want to join the Lakers, the same thing he said when he asked to be traded, right? He wants to win championships, but he doesn't believe that he needs LeBron James to win championships. And he believes, because he wouldn't have signed with the Clippers, that in the head-to-head, he doesn't believe he's better than LeBron James. He felt like as if he was better than Kevin Durant. That's why he wanted to pair up with Kevin Durant, because he's got such a respect for Kevin Durant's game. That's why both of them were looking at New York, and that's why Brooklyn and the Knicks were a real possibility for Kawhi, because he knew, yes, I want to win some championships. I can't do it by myself, but I do believe if I have another all-star, did he have a priority list? I can't say that, but his first call was to Kevin Durant. He did talk to several others, but he believes paired with another star, he can win NBA championships. That has not changed. He didn't feel as if when he was in San Antonio, he had to be traded to Los Angeles to play alongside LeBron James. And as I said, once they got Anthony Davis, that really hurt their chances of Kawhi ever putting on one of the Lakers uniforms, because he was not going to be responsible himself for forming a super team.
Right. If a super team forms around him with the Clippers in a couple years, if all of a sudden they add another star, that's one thing. But him being the last piece of one when LeBron and Anthony Davis had already been there, that would be viewed very differently. And the other part of this is why I reject it out of hand when people are like, LeBron went to L.A. to win, to make movies. He doesn't care about winning anymore. Guys at this level, where they truly believe in their heart of hearts, I'm the best player in the league, believe anywhere I go becomes a contender. Now, LeBron knew that last year the Lakers were not going to be able to win a championship, but he, I think, correctly believed, give us a year, we'll find one other star, and we'll be contending. Kawhi knew that if he went to the Clippers with no one else, that's probably not a championship team, but with Paul George, it is. And so if you think you can get to your destination by multiple routes, then you know you're going to get more credit, if you will, and it might be more personally satisfying to take the route that demands more of you. Like, maybe at some point in time, maybe before I was alive, maybe before I started covering sports, championships weren't considered important enough. And maybe it's just the pendulum swung so far in reaction to that. But we are now to a point to where we disrespect and denigrate guys so much that don't have a title that sometimes we miss the plot that it's not just about who wins the final game of the season.
Well, the reason why you say things like that, because you don't have anything else to say. Well, why? What kind of player were they? Oh, they were a great player. Oh, but they didn't win a championship. That's the reason why they do that. It's not as if, I just think with the coverage of all the athletes, it's more intense, and there's so many people doing it that you have to throw in, to be able to divide them, the championships and everything. But I've said this a whole bunch. There's no way I'm going to take away my 1,100 catches for a Super Bowl ring. There's no way.
Of course. Like maybe it started with LeBron. He had won a couple MVPs. He was clearly the best player in the league, but he hadn't won a title, so people crushed him. And then KD felt in a similar spot, and so where we started to be, well, have they won a title? And I guess it's coming for Giannis soon, I would imagine. But Kawhi picking the Lakers, yeah, it would have made him -200 favorites. It would have been the best place to win a title. But that doesn't mean it's the best place for his career. It doesn't mean it's the best place for what he's trying to accomplish in this league.
No, I agree. I agree with what both of you are saying. And Kawhi should feel like he can take out LeBron. And he should feel the best player. He took out the Sixers' big four. He took out Giannis. He took the the Golden State Warriors 3-1 before they were up 3-1 before Kevin Durant went down. I mean, he should feel like he, along with anyone else, should be able to compete against
Kawhi has
who they have
a
at the
great
Lakers.
deal of confidence, and you saw that confidence in the Eastern Conference Final when they were down 2-0 to Giannis.
Yeah.
To me, because Golden State was injured, to me, that was the biggest series coming after the buzzer beater against Philadelphia, what he did to Giannis. Giannis was the MVP of the season, and he took over that series in that game number 3. So Kawhi's got a tremendous amount of confidence. Kawhi feels like he does not need LeBron James. And also, Kawhi's personality does not fit the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James, and everything else they have going on. Now, he would have taken it as a last resort if the Toronto, if they couldn't trade for someone. Right. But he ended up getting exactly what he wanted. It wasn't paramount for him to go back home, but as a priority, he wanted to play in Southern California. He got that, was able to play with the Clippers. They got another star in Paul George, and he feels like they're ready to win a couple championships.
All right, speaking of getting another star, who could be the final piece in the Lakers championship puzzle? Wait till you hear next on First Things First. We got a great heavyweight battle for you coming up on August 3rd as Adam Kovnatsky takes on Cris Arreola Saturday, August 3rd on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Time for us to go viral. Zion Williamson took to Twitter yesterday to make a very big announcement. He will be joining Nike's Jordan brand with the deal reportedly worth $75 million over 7 years, and it didn't take long for the news to spread, with a Zion billboard popping up right down the street across from MSG, Madison Square Garden. Salt in the wound for Knicks fans, but it's nothing new of late.
See, you're happy about this, I would imagine. You being a huge Jordan fan, call him not only the greatest basketball player, but the greatest marketer of all time. His tennis shoes.
Yeah, tell me where I lied.
Well, I'm just setting you up here on this.
Nick was upset this
Zion.
morning.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, they
You
were.
were a little
They were a
disappointed.
great. He has a great basketball shoe. It's either signed with Jordan or signed with LeBron. Those are the best shoes, especially for his body type. But yes, and I like the way they photoshopped it, Jenna. They slimmed him out. They lost some weight on him. Jordan knows.
I do. I thought he was going to sign with Nike. I'm glad he signed with Nike. Where I was surprised is I thought he might, a la LeBron, Durant, Kyrie, Paul George, get his own signature line, as opposed to join Russell Westbrook, Blake Griffin, some others, folded into the Jordan brand part of it. I thought that would be Nike's biggest selling.
Yeah, I think most of those are just ego. When you have a shoe like LeBron, the way he's established it, and Jordan, why would I want to compete? These guys just do it like once I get to the league, I want my own shoe. But I believe that the basketball shoes are better, the LeBrons are better, and the Jordans are better to wear for his feet, for his career.
Your idea that he could have become the first LeBron athlete, because LeBron doesn't have anyone that signed under him like Jordan brand, was a really good one because of his size and the bulk on him. Are you surprised he didn't just sign with the Steph Curry sneakers, see?
No, he's not going to be cutting grass for a living.
What about Shaq?
He's playing basketball. I mean, can you get them in the United States? Goodness gracious. Those things are made overseas somewhere. Didn't we ban those things?
Time now for stories to start your morning. Ian Rappaport reporting that Melvin Gordon will be holding out as the Chargers arrive at camp today. The Pro Bowl running back will be subject to fines, and contract talks are expected to halt as the team focuses on the running backs at camp. All right, Cris Carter, how do you see this one playing out?
It's not going to end well. It's going to be a major distraction there for the Chargers. They're not going to pay him. They've been doing this for a long time. They're not in love with Melvin Gordon at those prices for a running back, so he's going to have to play it out, and I believe that potentially he can be franchised after the season, or you have to hit free agency, but I don't believe the Chargers will pay him.
I think it's going to end up with Melvin Gordon playing under the terms of his current deal, a few $100,000 lighter due to fines for missed time. It's unfortunate for him. I don't think he has the leverage. I also don't think he has the sustained level of excellence to be able to make these types of demands. I'm all for everyone getting paid. I think he might be overplaying his hand in this spot, though, particularly by not showing up for camp.
All right, moving on to Seattle now. Linebacker Bobby Wagner seeking a new deal, but he says he'll attend training camp and will be cautious until he has a new contract. Nick, you like this approach?
Well, it seems like exactly what you recommended Melvin Gordon do, and other guys that are in this situation. Show up, but be careful. If you're not comfortable playing in the preseason games, don't do it. This is the route you would recommend guys take in this spot, correct?
Well, only if you're Bobby Wagner now. Bobby Wagner is a special football player. Now, there are not two linebackers in this league, middle, that are better than him. For years, he's been underrated, running that defense, also running that locker room with all those personalities. He's the last one to get paid, and he's been the most dependable defender since he's been the starting linebacker for the Seahawks. The other people, they're not as good. Ezekiel Elliott and him have the same type of resume. Bobby's been doing it longer, but Melvin Gordon, him, no. They're both out west. That's about the same. They're both in the NFL. No, he can't do what Bobby Wagner's doing.
All right, finally, Dallas got some great news yesterday. All-Pro center Travis Frederick is expected to be back in 2019. Frederick missed all of last year dealing with an immune system disorder. All right, Nick, what's the ceiling for the Cowboys if they are at full strength?
Last year, they were carried by their defense this entirety of the season. In the second half of the season, the offense did its part. They had a top 10, I think the 7th-ranked scoring defense, 6th-ranked yardage defense, and an offense in the second half of the year approached that top 15. If you get that level of offensive production to go along with where they were defensively, that second half of the season level, there's no reason this team can't be in the NFC Championship game, somewhere they haven't been in 20 seasons. There's no reason they can't, for the first time since the mid-90s, which is unbelievable, win playoff games in back-to-back years. Like, this is the year for the Cowboys. They have a superstar running back. They have a very good wide receiver. They have a quarterback that, while limited, does not kill you and can make big plays in big spots. With Travis Frederick back, they should get back to being who they had been the previous few years, which is the best offensive line, or certainly a top 3 offensive line in football, and they've spent the money on the defense. So at full strength, with Zeke in the fold, with Travis Frederick back, with Dak not playing like he did the first half of last year, this Cowboys team should be in the discussion for one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFC, which means you're right there to potentially get past the divisional round, which they haven't done in nearly 25 years, and have it be a game away from a Super Bowl. To me, I don't think they're a Super Bowl champion team, but could they be one of the teams playing in the second to last weekend of the year? Absolutely, if it all falls right and they have all those guys in the fold.
With Travis Frederick coming back, it's something specifically. Healthy, he's the best center in football, and not just a blocker. His overall athleticism, I would say him and the center for New England are 1 and 2. So what does it allow them to do? They struggled last year in the red zone. His backup, he was adequate, but he's not a star. Travis Frederick, he will not be overwhelmed in the red zone. They would get in the gap next to the center guard, and they would overwhelm them in the red zone, get penetration, take them out of their running game, and cause the quarterback problems. He's also a veteran. He's going to help your quarterback get better, because with the line calls and the pass protection, it should give Dak more comfort. And Dak doesn't have to assume all the responsibility that he had last season. They should share in that. And Travis is such a good athlete. He's not your normal center. Normal centers, they are good to the right and to their left, but he's great in space. He can pull on a run and be able to get the edge, to be able to get you a running hole. And in the screen game, he is one of the best in the business as far as setting it and getting outside for Ezekiel Elliott or someone else to be able to break free. So at full strength, if their line can return to being one of the top 3 offensive line, Pro Football Focus has them ranked, if Travis is healthy, number 2. But if they can be a top 3 offensive line, I said it yesterday, when they win time of possession, when they play less than 30 minutes, their defense was 8-0. So Travis Frederick in that offense, it plays a huge part in how Dallas, and if they're going to have Super Bowl aspirations, that undersized defense has got to play a little bit of time so they can be quick, force some turnovers. But Travis Frederick coming back, he is a star in the NFL, and there are only a few stars that we have on the offensive line.
Well, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but the same conversation we had with Melvin Gordon. Yeah, if at full strength, this team is potentially Super Bowl bound or playoff bound, but how much of a distraction is going to be all those contract talks and
they're all showing up right
stuff?
now.
They are.
I mean, we don't know what Zeke's going to do, but there's no.
They're all under contract.
And Amari's not holding out. Dak's not holding out. And we'll see what happens with Zeke. Like, yes, there's. If some of their best players are not there, then most notably Zeke, then to me, they go from being a team that could make the NFC Championship. Without Zeke, I don't think they're a playoff team. Oh. I think he is that important. He's the most talented player on their team. But the ability of this team to have a dominant, and I know it's the most boring part of the team to talk about, offensive line is, I mean, they have an all-pro left tackle. They spent a second-round pick last year on their left guard, Connor Williams. Travis Frederick's the best center in football, or was, before he missed a year. Zach Martin was in the discussion for the best guard in football. And the right tackle, La'el Collins, is going to make a lot of money by either the Cowboys next offseason or somebody else. He had an odd draft situation, made him fall to where he was available with the Cowboys. If those guys all play to their abilities, then even if Dak plays poorly, he can't kill you. We know Zeke will have the open running holes. And so that's where this team's at its best. That's where they were at their best in 2016. Was that offensive line crushed people? I think Travis Frederick, I think Chris's point on what Dak had to do pre-snap without having Travis there, the adjustment to the new center at the beginning of the year, I think that's an important part. And if he's back, how much easier that makes Dak's job, I think that's a critical part for the Cowboys this upcoming season.
All right, let's pause and move to the NBA now. The LA Lakers' quest to help LeBron get a title in year 17 was predicated on filling out the rest of their roster to its fullest potential. Well, they're just about there, but according to reports, the Lakers are keeping one roster spot open for Andre Iguodala if he gets bought out of his deal in Memphis. See, how much better would Iggy make the Lakers right now?
He makes every team better. I don't know why just the Lakers. If he goes to the Clippers, he makes them better. Any of the teams in the West, he makes them better. Man, he is a quality basketball player, a quality human being, a guy that's been through ups and downs. His resume is hard to match. He's been an all-star. He's been a reserve. He's been on the championship as a starter. He's been on championship as a reserve. He's a great defender. He's helped calm some of the stuff that's going on in Golden State behind the scenes. His teammates like him. I haven't heard anybody say anything about him. And he's a tough guy. LeBron, I'm sure LeBron, this is what he wants. I don't want him to be guarding me. We get into a series.
Right.
All right? Now, could you imagine the rotation of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Iggy on LeBron? No. Did you see the reaction of LeBron when Kawhi checked into the game when he was with the Heat? Oh, he'd be saying triple over. Oh, him. Like, no, it is not a good matchup. I'd much rather have him on my team fighting against them with his overall experience. And especially, you're going to have some moments during the season. He's a guy that I want in my troop because I know he's going to be a calming force and he has answers to real NBA questions. Leave him open, he can knock down shots, but that overall leadership, to me, when you have all these teams that are equally matched, a guy like him becomes more important than he was the last several years, and he was very important there in Golden State.
And a guy who knows exactly what his role is, has removed the ego about starting after being a perennial starter until Steve Kerr moved him to the bench when they got there, and it led to championships in Golden State was a huge part of it. But Chris's point about is he more valuable for the Lakers playing for them or just not playing against them is an enormous one. We talk about, well, if he goes to the Clippers arguably have the three best LeBron defenders in the league, in Kawhi, Paul George, Andre Iguodala. But think about the other two teams that are in the running for him. If Houston right now has no one to check LeBron, who on that roster you're like, oh, okay, in a playoff series, he's going to be a guy that we can credibly put on LeBron one-on-one. PJ Tucker's a great defender, but he's too small. Nobody. Denver, another team that is a Western Conference contender. Who on Denver's roster right now can guard LeBron? The answer is nobody. So if he goes to the Clippers, they have three guys that can do it. If he goes to Houston or Denver, they go from 0 to 1, which is an enormous upgrade. So yes, he'd be helpful for the Lakers. But it's almost more helpful for him to be with them, or for him just not to be against them, than to be with him. But the one other thing, when you mention he's respecting the locker room, who also does he have a relationship with that's currently on the Lakers that, to me, is the biggest personality question mark? Boogie Cousins. He was with Boogie Cousins through the ups and downs of last year. Whatever Boogie's role is, Anthony Davis has a relationship with Boogie. Rajon does. But they dealt with Boogie, they played with Boogie when things were flying high for him. Then he pops his Achilles, and he didn't play with them ever again. Andre Iguodala has a relationship with Boogie Cousins, dealing with rehab, coming back, playing well, getting hurt again, trying to come back. That, to me, could be very important as Boogie's role develops with the Lakers.
And see, he's also a LeBron guy. He's a guy you could trust. He's a guy with a high basketball IQ. He's a guy who you know is going to be a veteran in the locker room. And he's a guy who, unlike with the Warriors, will probably be playing a limited basis, maybe keep him fresher and healthier to actually last throughout the season if he were there with the Lakers.
He fits great with the Lakers. At this point in his career, yes, if he can play around 55, 60 games, and you keep him just fresh enough that when you're able to start, that was one of the things when Golden State, they couldn't recover from injury, but they might have been able to recover if he was healthy. All right, because he had a calf, he had a knee that was bothering him. He's logged a lot of minutes, but he's got to be in the right situation. And there's a lot of situations. I believe Denver is a better situation for him because of his overall leadership, and he started his career there. And there's only a few players in this league And right now I can say Kawhi, I can say Iggy, and I can say LeBron, that they've had success against everyone. Everyone else can't say that.
Yep.
Steph can't say that. Clay can't say that. KD can't say that. Paul George can't say that. Harden can't say that. But these guys are the few that can say, you know something? If he was on Denver, said, hey, I know how to defeat these guys. If he's on the Lakers, imagine the cachet that he brings with them coming down the stretch. No, he's a tremendous addition. He's a great basketball player. And to have him in your mix and you're trying to win a championship, I believe is a positive.
And the Lakers last year foolishly said we're going to go playmakers, and they got guys who couldn't shoot and actually also weren't very good playmakers. But if you did have, you would be a little light on shooting here, but if 4 of your 5 guys on the court at one point were LeBron, Andre Iguodala, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins, all of those guys, for their position and their size, are elite playmakers. Boogie's an elite passer for his position. Anthony Davis, an above-average passer for his position. For Iggy, aside from the defense, that's what he did best for Golden State, was keep the ball moving in that offense. We know what type of passer LeBron is. So there are some real basketball parts, but the championship DNA, which sounds cliche, almost no one in the league has that in higher quantities than Andre Iguodala, which is why the best teams in the league all want him. Yeah, the Lakers would love to have him. The Clippers would love to have him. Rockets are trying to get him. I agree with you. Denver would be a great fit, and he would fit a huge need for a team that has no real championship DNA on that roster. So one of those teams is going to get him, and it will be an enormous piece of who ends up winning the title this year.
Nice to be wanted, Iggy. Coming up, can Patrick Mahomes lead the Chiefs to the Super Bowl in year 3? That's still ahead. This is First Things First. Welcome back to the show. We're now joined by Super Bowl champ Cris Canty. Hey, Chris.
Hey,
Boom.
Jenna.
That was a great dap. That was awesome.
Let me get it.
We
first.
Got a
were good.
That was even.
We were okay the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no.
When she introduced
Air
me,
five.
everything was smooth.
No, you off
And
vacation.
then all of a sudden,
I got gypped
Good
on
to
the
see
Air
you, Miss
five.
Jenna-isms.
Jenna
okay,
says
Jenna.
Air 5. Let's talk Steelers.
You ain't the first person you made nervous. You made nervous.
Okay, here we go. Coming off a year in which the
Talk about how
Steelers.
smooth my skin is.
Sorry about that. That was my bad. Steelers missed the playoffs. They had an interesting offseason, suddenly finding themselves missing what some would call most of their offense after trading away Antonio Brown and letting Lev Bell walk. All eyes and all responsibility now shift to Ben Roethlisberger.
He does not have smooth skin.
No, he does not. But Cris Canty does. According to one columnist, that's what he told us yesterday, the Steelers have done everything to make this Big Ben's team. So, Cris Canty, how do you expect Ben to respond in his first full season without AB
Excited to hear this.
and L. Bell?
Well, he better respond by not throwing the ball to the other team. That's a great place to start. He also needs to tone it down with the radio spot that he's been doing every single week during the regular season, because we've seen some inflammatory comments from there. And when you have that kind of stuff out there, I mean, it doesn't do you any favors in terms of your locker room being able to remove them, remove the distractions and all of those types of things. But clearly, the organization thinks that it's addition by subtraction by letting Le'Veon Bell walk in free agency and then deciding to trade away Antonio Brown. Like, this has to be Ben Roethlisberger's team. He has to assert himself as a leader. He's got to galvanize everybody. He's got to get everybody to buy into whatever agenda that Mike Tomlin wants to set for the team. That's the biggest thing when I look at this season, because you really need those young players that they have on the roster. James Conner, Jalen Samuels, the kid Benny Snell that they drafted out of Kentucky. You need those guys to step up and fill in for the production that's walking out of the door. So that's the thing that I'm excited to see. A lot of young players emerging from this Pittsburgh Steelers team right now, because you've got that void. You need production because Antonio Brown's not there.
Yes.
Le'Veon Bell is not there. So we'll see how that works out. But I think that Ben Roethlisberger being put in this position, I think this puts it all on him. It's not on anybody else. This is on Big Ben.
Listen, this is a tremendous opportunity for Big Ben, but with this tremendous opportunity comes some possible pitfalls. If they make it back to the playoffs, forget they don't have to win a Super Bowl. If they just make it back to the playoffs after missing the playoffs for the first time in over a half decade, if they win the division when they are for the first time in a while not favored to do so, with no Le'Veon Bell, with no Antonio Brown, Big Ben gets to, whether he will say it publicly on the radio show or just think it.
Probably will.
Say, hey, guys, told you. Like, I got this. There's the noise, the distraction. I was always part of the solution, never part of the problem, and I got this. If it goes poorly, as I fear it may, and if they go from their first season out of the playoffs in over half decade to their first season under 500 since Mike Tomlin's been the head coach, then that opportunity turns into an indictment. Then it's, man, why didn't you make it work with one of the 3 most talented receivers in football in Antonio Brown? It's not fair to blame Ben for the Le'Veon Bell thing at all, in my opinion. That was a contract dispute with ownership. But he and Antonio had a falling out. And that's obviously, to me, a big part of the reason he's no longer there. And so if they are a worse team because of that, yeah, that will fall on a lot of people. Primarily will fall on Ben Roethlisberger's shoulders, the 3 Super Bowl appearances and the 2 championships notwithstanding. So it's an exciting moment for him, but this season's also fraught with more risk than most seasons in the most recent history for Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, let me educate you guys just a little bit, just a little bit, all right? When Jerome Bettis left the Pittsburgh Steelers, he turned the Pittsburgh Steelers over to Ben Roethlisberger. So this is not the first time a legendary player has left Ben Roethlisberger or the Steelers. So us thinking that the team is turned over to him, no. The problem with L. Bell and them was they thought it was their team, and it was always Ben's team. So it's not an opportunity the team's turned over. It's an opportunity for an old veteran player who leads the team in wins, passing yards, passing touchdowns, and passing rating. So he's just not getting the keys to the car today. It's always been his franchise for a long period of time. Let me give you a couple other quarterbacks, just as an example. The Chargers, whose team is that?
It's Phillip Rivers.
Oh, okay. What about the New York Football Giants here?
Eli Manning.
Oh, okay. Didn't they all come in the league at the same time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well, let's just stay in the division. In Baltimore, Kenty, whose team is that?
It was Joe Flacco's. It ain't no more. It's
Whose
Lamar
team is it
Jackson.
now? Oh, okay. Let's go to Cleveland.
It's Baker's, but I guess I don't.
No, I'm not done yet. All right? When you are a quarterback in this league, it's your team. If you're Nick Foles, it's his team in Jacksonville. So to think that the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point are turned, no, it's always been. That was part of Antonio's problem that he had, that they're going to always choose him over me if they have to. Antonio is not in Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh didn't want him there, not because Ben didn't want him there. Antonio didn't want to be in Pittsburgh. That's why he refused to come. He refused to show up to work and demanded a trade. So for me, there are more optics on Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, but it should be. There ain't no one else. I got their whole roster right here. You tell me someone else that should be their team.
Right, no, of course, but I don't think anyone disputes that. And when you say, all right, so 2 things. One is when you say, Antonio's not there because Antonio didn't want to be there, but part of the reason he didn't want to be there is because the relationship with the quarterback's sour.
Do you know how many guys in the locker room don't like guys they're playing with?
Okay, that's fine, but how many guys in the locker room
we should acknowledge that.
Okay, I think we do acknowledge that, but he's the one that's gone.
The reason why he couldn't deal with Ben is because they weren't going to give him no new money.
That's what it is.
Okay, that was obviously part of it. Another part of it was the ongoing fraying of the relationship of Ben throwing him under the bus after he throws the interception, of the things on the radio show. We can't act like those things didn't happen, didn't have a part of it. Now, would it all have been papered over if the Steelers gave him $100 million? Sure, but no one, to me, see, you're arguing a point no one's disputing. Of course it's Ben Roethlisberger's team. That is true. What is also true is this. Phillip Rivers didn't just all of a sudden have a feud with Keenan Allen and Melvin Gordon, and they're gone. Phillip Rivers, it's his team, but the level of scrutiny on him this year is the same as last year. There's a higher level of scrutiny on Big Ben this season because if it goes poorly, it's not Le'Veon Bell's holdout.
Yep.
It's not Antonio Brown throwing coolers. So what is it? It's the coach or the quarterback or both. I don't think people disagree on that.
No, I think the organization has made it clear that Big Ben is in a leadership role. It's going to be him and, remember, 52 other kids. That's what their GM, Kevin Colbert, said. But along with that leadership role comes a responsibility to try to make it work, especially with your best players. And that's something that Big Ben hasn't done a great job of doing in the past. So I look at this situation now. He's got every opportunity to do that, and the organization needs him to step up, not only from what he's doing from performance on the field, but he's also got to be better in the locker room with his teammates. No question about it. Young players, they're just trying to find the formula for success. Big Ben has got to be a part of those guys figuring out that aspect of it because he's going to have to lean on those guys now. He doesn't have Lev Bell or Antonio Brown.
I'm sure part of it was that Ben Roethlisberger thought he made Antonio Brown better, and Antonio Brown probably thought he made Ben Roethlisberger better. Who do you think was more responsible? Do you think Big Ben for the two guys, Lev Bell and Antonio Brown, or those two guys made Ben better?
Both of them are very, very unique. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been a running franchise until they got Ben Roethlisberger. So they start throwing the ball when they got Ben, not when they got Antonio. All the other receivers, not to the level, because Antonio has played a historic level. You cannot throw the football and separate the credit. All right? Ben Roethlisberger is great in itself. He is a tremendous quarterback, and his yards, his wins, they all stay. What Antonio did, I'm not going to let people hate on him because, man, he's a great route runner, double teams, can get off the bump and run. As a small receiver, like, he developed into one of the elite. He had a 5-year window, one of the best windows we've ever seen for any wide receiver. So I don't have to make a choice because I know you cannot do at a high level one without the other.
No question about it. And now Ben has got to get other guys to step up. James Washington is another player that they're going to be looking for in that receiving core to step up. This organization has done a great job of developing wide receivers, the latest, of course, being Juju Smith-Schuster. But, I mean, a lot of that's going to be on Ben to try to get those guys to come along because their expectation is to be in the playoffs.
This is the
That's
thing.
how the Pittsburgh Steelers get
This
down.
is what we got to be careful, though. What if the Pittsburgh Steelers at this group of wide receivers, led by Dante Moncrief and Smith-Schuster and Eli Rogers, what if they don't develop? We just already blamed it on Ben. It ain't going to be Ben's fault. Ben's thrown to all different types of receivers. It's up to them receivers to get better. We can't have everything. The defense is awful.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying that's
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just talking about in terms of trying to get other guys to step up because you're losing so much production. All I'm saying is this. As Ben Roethlisberger goes is how this team is going to go. He's the quarterback. He has the most impact on their ability to win.
I don't believe that. Last year, Ben threw for 5,000 yards. Their defense was bad at times. They didn't make the playoffs.
But, CC, when he's throwing 16 interceptions, it doesn't help. When you look at that Denver Broncos game, it didn't help that he's turning the ball over and they're blaming it on receivers running the wrong route.
So there aren't teams that the quarterback throwing 16 interceptions to get to the playoffs?
No. He had the second most turnovers in interceptions in the league. He was good and bad last year.
Of course, Ben doesn't want to throw interceptions, but what's the excuse for their defense?
No excuse for their defense.
But of course, it's not just one piece, one part, one thing. But with the star receiver being gone, it is now. And with Juju, here's the thing that's toughest for the Steelers. Juju's not going to be able to be more productive than last year.
Yeah.
Juju had 1,500 yards last year.
That's a lot.
So it's not like, okay, well, Juju's going to. Juju, they just hope can duplicate it. The Antonio Brown production void's going to have to be filled by the guys you mentioned. James Washington, who's been criticized by Big Ben, Dante Moncrief, Eli Rogers. One of those young players or middling veteran players going to have to step into that void. And it's a hell of a void
That
to fill.
plus hoping James Conner steps up and has some of the production he had in spurts last year as well.
I made 8 Pro Bowls, 5 different quarterbacks. I sign up if I could to play with Ben Roethlisberger any day. I'll handle what he's saying off the field. All right? I can handle that.
All right, let's take a break. Kenny, stick around. Coming up, can Odell live up to the hype in Cleveland? That's next. This is First Things First. Back here with Chris Canty. Time for Say What? Friend of the show, Mark Schlereth won 3 Super Bowls in his heyday, but now that Stink's retired, he puts all his focus into grass. Say what?
Hey, welcome into another edition of Man 101. And yeah, you found me in my favorite place. That's right, my lawn. And I'm telling you what, people, it is spectacular. Look at this. July 21st. I'm telling you what, a thing of beauty. And don't think I don't hear the whispers in the neighborhood, the accusations. That's right, people accusing me of lawn PEDs. Well, let me tell you something, people. This is 100% all natural. I water this with the blood and the sweat, and I fertilize with my own tears of joy. That's right, people. I'm out here working, mowing 3 days a week. Meanwhile, you've got some namby-pamby landscaping company mowing your lawn once a week. Shame on you.
See, you recently moved. You now have a lawn.
Yeah.
You hit up Stink for any tips, lawn care, anything like that?
No, yeah, I got some tips for you. I grew up in the housing project. When you can hire a lawn company, that's major coming up in the world. In the projects, ain't no grass. It's nothing but brick, man, nothing but concrete. No. I ain't, man, forget Steve.
I don't know, but seeing his lawn make me feel like I need to get on my landscapers to get their game stepped up.
Okay, not that you need to do it individually.
I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. I spend enough time in the grass in my profession.
Palatial Estates of Alpine, New Jersey, if you want to go see Cris.
We got to take it there?
Drive by the house with the Bentley parked out front.
Yeah, with the terrible lawn. I'm going to need my landscapers to step it up.
Bad lawn, Bentley out front. It's Candy's house.
All right. Moving on. No better candidate for most hyped team in the NFL than the Cleveland Browns, due in large part to their stud quarterback Baker Mayfield and to the addition of the artist formerly known as the kid with the yellow hair, Odell Beckham Jr. However, ahead of OBJ's first training camp in Cleveland, the flashy wideout is hoping to downplay expectations.
I'm excited to be a part of the excitement. You know, I've really, like I said, I've watched from afar kind of, you know, the struggles, whether they didn't win a game that one year and then they won a game and now they went from 7 to 9. I feel like it's just been on the come up. You know, it's just that time. And I just want to be able to give absolutely everything I have and see where we land. Baker's ready to sling it and we're ready to win some games.
I like that. I felt good after hearing him talk yesterday. How good do you think this Browns team can be this year?
I think it can be a good football team. I think that we can get to the last month of the season, and we're talking about the Cleveland Browns being in the playoff picture.
Yep.
John Dorsey has done a tremendous job of adding talent to this roster. But when I listen to Odell and you think about the hype and the expectations around this team, like, this is the first time a lot of those guys are having to deal with those expectations. Odell has only been a part of one winning team. That was the 2016 Giants. They played in the wild card up in Green Bay. That's it. Just one team with a winning record. That Cleveland Browns franchise has had 17 losing seasons this millennium. So, I mean, this is a new position for them to be in, and these are relatively young players. So I wonder how they're going to be able to manage all of that, and that's why I have to look at the head coach, Freddie Kitchens. That's my biggest question for the Cleveland Browns in 2019. How does he do in terms of setting the agenda for the team? Because that's going to determine how these guys go about their business, whether or not they're able to stay focused with all the strong personalities that they have in that building. That's what it's going to come down to. Freddie Kitchens, his ability to be able to lay it all out for these young players, because, again, when you talk about young players in this league, they don't necessarily have the formula for success. Nope. They're going to have to lean on their head coach to help provide that.
You make some great points. I do believe it's important as far as Freddie Kitchens. There's a number of other people that become very, very important. Their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, running that defense after the short stint there in Arizona. He didn't get the best look to be a head coach there. They fired him after a year. So he becomes important because the experience he does have as a coach, and he was a defensive coordinator in Carolina when they were nasty. And he has the personnel. This might be the best personnel that he's had since he's been in professional football, and definitely in the most recent time. That becomes important because defense travels. Next thing, their offensive line and their running game. Number one thing Freddie Kitchens did when he took over the team, they start running the ball, they start protecting the team. That travels. A running game and a defense, they will help stabilize you. So what if the quarterback's off? The wide receivers aren't getting their numbers. You can win 9 games with just that, being elite level at those two things. Now, on the outside, they can be special as far as their wide receiving or their skilled group. But they got to make some sacrifices. And it's easier to sacrifice when you've been paid. Jarvis Landry, he's had 100-catch seasons. He's been to the Pro Bowl. Odell's been to the Pro Bowl. Both of them have the big contract. Now, when you have the big contract, it's about sacrifice. So how many outbursts will I see with Odell on the sideline where he is a distraction to other guys on the team because guys aren't used to some of those types of things? And if he has 2 catches and they win, does he have the same joy? Because I'm going to tell you, people used to film me and Randy Moss. When I scored, they would immediately go to Randy Moss and film and see what type of enthusiasm he had. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes you tired, man. You'll know this, Canty. You got a double team. Some guy comes free. He sacks the quarterback. You're trying to finish up your business with the center and everything. You're not jumping up there going everything. But People will blow those things up, and those are the types of things that in Cleveland you're going to have to watch for this year. This is what people will be watching for. I don't know if the numbers will say so, but Odell Beckham, mentally and physically, is ready to have his best season on a winner, which he's not used to.
So how good can this team be at its best? The biggest question mark, as you mentioned, is coaching. Let me address that in a moment.
Okay.
Why can this team, at its best, everything falls right, not be what the 2012 Niners were? A young team, by the way, with a young, unproven NFL head coach, the young quarterback that went to the Super Bowl. The 2013 Seahawks, we look at Pete Carroll as a great coach now. Pete Carroll, at that point in the Seahawks, he had failed in New England, gone back to college, was unproven at the NFL level. Russell Wilson, we know how unproven he was. They won the Super Bowl. 2017 Eagles. Doug Peterson, they settled on Doug Peterson after missing out on Ben McAdoo. They won the Super Bowl. The 2018 Rams. Now, we all love McVay, think he's a young genius, but he is, relatively speaking, unproven prior to last year, certainly. Second-year coach. They go to the Super Bowl. All those teams had second-year quarterbacks, all of them highly drafted except for Russell Wilson, and they all had a defense that could, in spots, carry the offense. The Niners and Seahawks had defenses that often carried the offense. That's, to me, the hidden gem of this Browns team. It's not just that they added Odell and that Baker's going to continue the trajectory that he was. It's that defensive line, with Myles Garrett potentially playing a full 16, bringing in Olivier Vernon, you love the Larry Ogunjobi kid, and they add Sheldon Richardson, plus Denzel Ward, plus the safeties. They have the ability to be a top 10 defense to go along with that dangerous of skill position group. So the ceiling to me is, best case scenario, they can go to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's hype. I don't think that's too premature. I think we've seen teams with this blueprint go to the Super Bowl. That is assuming your concern, Freddie Kitchens, doesn't trip them up.
Odell went on to say, every year when I was with the Giants, people asked me what I thought about this season. I said, oh, we can go to the Super Bowl. He said, I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to sort of level my expectations and say, I think we're going to be good. Let's see how we can do. I think it's a great approach, and I think this team that is so hyped, if they maintain that approach, they could actually do some good things. Candy, we'll see you a little bit later on in the show. Coming up, guess who's here? Hall of Famer Mariano Rivera in the building.
Welcome, baby.
My man.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Hey,
you.
Mariano.
Hey, babe.
How are you? Nice to see
great.
you again. Welcome back. So over the weekend, Mariano Rivera was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, the first player ever unanimously selected. And lucky us, joins the show to talk about it. Mo, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
It is great to have you here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Nice seeing you guys.
I
too.
watched much of the ceremony. 55,000 fans showed up just to congratulate you at the Hall of Fame. You had that kind of reception when you were playing, but to have that now, what was the weekend like? What did it feel like? What were some of your takeaways?
The weekend was amazing. Busy, but it was amazing. Oh, my God. I mean, the biggest thing just in front of the fans, but when we were just the Hall of Famers just alone, wow. You were like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Guys that you grew up watching, that you wanted to meet and share with them. You only see them for a little bit when they come to the fields or when you go to their place where they used to play, you know, the organization that they belong. But when I have them for a good 2 hours, sitting, eating, shouting, seeing the way they are.
But also, now you're one of them. You're in that group.
You know, thank God, thank God.
And the way it started, not like most Hall of Famers, typically being a first draft pick or having success or long success, a lot of your teammates and everything from the beginning, even though there might have been a little struggle, none quite like yours. Starting off in the majors as a starter, realize it's more difficult, then you go to the bullpen. How much more is it satisfying to see, knowing your journey and how it started with the struggle?
It's definitely satisfying, you know. It's gratifying. It's everything beyond that because, I mean, as a big leaguer, you come to the big leagues, I mean, a boy from Panama, you know, little that I know the language and all of that stuff. So when I came and, you know, they took me out of the start, but they put me in the bullpen. I didn't care, Chris. I just wanted to be in the big leagues, regardless. And then, you know, I was blessed that I have the opportunity to be as a long reliever. I did good, I would say, you know, and then in '96, Mr. Torrey put me in the bullpen as a long reliever, and within a month, I was the settlement. that year we accomplished something special. You know, we won the first time since I don't know when, and then became the New York Yankees closer. I mean, in '97. Weeks after, I was struggling, and Mr. Torre, like I said before, Mr. Torre says, Mariano, as long as I am the manager, you will be my closer. Come on, if I struggle and I don't do good, I know that it will be somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, but the Lord gave me, after that meeting, within 10 days, something like that, He gave me the best pitcher there is in baseball, the Carter. You know, it's not like someone teach it to me. He gave it to me. And guys, I was trying to make that ball stop from moving because I had no control. I was afraid. So I got no control of the pitch.
You just came up with it on accident.
No, it wasn't an accident. It was a gift by God. It's something that I have to learn how to use it. And I used it for 17 years. The only thing that I didn't do was this, guys. I didn't tell the guys, hey, guys, verbally, here comes
but
the
they
quarter.
knew.
Right.
But they knew.
And they couldn't do it.
Years, they couldn't hit it. I mean, you're talking about, think about, this is a miracle. Why I say that? Because we have the best of the best here in the United States, all over the world. They come here to play. And the best of the best, if they know a pitch coming, I guarantee you guys, they will hit it hard with authority.
Yeah.
Okay? They knew that pitch was coming for 17 years.
And no one
couldn't
knows
hit
it.
it.
And that's how you have a 2.2 career ERA, which that alone will get you in the Hall of Fame. But when you cut that down by 70%, 0.7 postseason ERA, it seems impossible. The 141 innings pitched, I think he allowed 2 home runs ever in the playoffs. All those playoff years. Why do you think you were already at this level of A-plus excellence, somehow raised your game in the biggest spots in the postseason, in those championship moments?
I believe that the game alone will dictate how you will raise your game because, I mean, you're talking about playoff first, and then you're talking about championship, and then World Series. So that alone, to me, not too many people had the opportunity to be there. So when I was there, I said, man, I had to do whatever it takes to bring it home. Whatever it takes. You know, my responsibility is just save those games regardless.
Right.
You know, and bring the best of you. They always will bring the best out of you.
Mariano, it's one thing to be a devastating pitcher, but to be able to do it on a stage like the biggest market in the country for one of the biggest teams like the Yankees. You started in a small fishing village in Panama. You came up, you got sent back down with Jeter that one year, I think it was in '95.
Yeah, 95,
then you come back up and you just dominate with the Yankees under Steinbrenner. I would imagine the bright lights in big city at some point felt a little tough or pressured for you to manage, but somehow you didn't feel it at all. What was that like, and how much did that help shape your career?
I mean, that was great, though. You bring a point that is special to me because, I mean, to me, do it in New York, it was the best blessing that I ever had. Because, I mean, if you do it in New York, you do it anywhere else. You know, and New York is the pinnacle. Is the greatest challenge there is for an athlete to succeed. Okay, you mentioned it. You have all these things, the city, all these things, you know. It will eat your life. But I was able, thank God, to manage that. You know, first of all, I didn't stay in the city. You know, I went away from the city.
Right.
I love the city, but I went away from the city. I went to Westchester County. I went to New Rochelle. You know, I stayed there, love it. You know, the water, the fishing, all that stuff. I love that. So I stayed there. You know, I didn't read no paper. I didn't see no news, none of that stuff. You know, I just went to my business. I know what I did. I don't have to sit on TV. I don't need to tell one to tell me, oh, man, you did. I knew exactly what I did. You know, therefore, I mean, if you stay within yourself, know who you are, know who you believe in, the abilities that he has given you, you believe on, I was okay with that. You know, the rest is just...
Yeah.
Mariano, you were the first and last, something very important in MLB history. First, obvious, player ever voted in unanimously. A lot of people thought that would never happen, that some writer would always leave someone off because Babe Ruth wasn't unanimous, but you were the first. But you were also the last player who's ever going to wear number 42. whoever wore Jackie Robinson's number, you were grandfathered in after it had been retired by the entirety of Major League Baseball. Why was that important to you?
But for me, I mean, what Mr. Jackie Robinson represents, and that was part of my speech. But my speech was getting too long, and I had to cut it short because I mean, to me, number 42 represents a lot. You know, this is a man that gave everything for baseballs, basically his life, for us to open a door, for us to come in. Okay, he did that for us, and then the challenge was that you know, the legacy that he's giving, you know, for me to have that number and continue was a blessing and a challenge. Okay, the blessing was, you know, who represent. The number was taken out of baseball. Now, I'm a challenge with, okay, what we do with what I have. Okay, that was given to me. I didn't ask for the number. The number was given to me. Basically, the number chooses me. All right, now, what I do with that, that was the challenge. And I wanted to be the best that I could be for Mr. Jackie Robinson, to extend his legacy, not my legacy, his legacy, his number, you know, his name. And that's what I'm proud of. You know, that if someone would have been alive, I want him to be alive because my grandpa or Mr. George Steinbrenner was Mr. Jackie Robinson.
We're fortunate to have you on the show. Thank you, especially after being enshrined last week. But I haven't seen an interview where you have not thanked God or leaned on your faith. You talked about being in New York. You talked about your cutter being a gift from God. There's a legacy in sports that I believe is going away. Very few athletes now talk about their faith or their connection to their faith. Athletic ability is a gift from God. What you do with that athletic ability is your gift back to him, and none has been better than you. You've been a great example. Kurt Warner, Reggie White, and others. What has that meant to you to be able to utilize this platform to be able to express your faith?
I mean, I don't know if athletes are afraid of expressing themselves, but, you know, my advice is that, you know, the Lord gave you the ability, the talent. We use it, you know, but the glory goes to him, not to us. You know, he gave us the opportunity to shine. He gave us the air to breathe, you know. So therefore, everything, my faith is everything, Chris. Everything that had to do with me had to be with faith. Because if not, well, what I'm doing here, you know, so I've encouraged everybody to just breathe free and speak about your relationship with your Lord. You know, because there's nothing wrong with that. Right. That's my belief, that's what I believe, and that's what I stand for.
Mariano, you did something that a lot of players today don't get a chance to do. You got to come up with a group of friends and then stay on one team for a long time. And they weren't just anybody. They were guys like Derek Jeter and Jorge Posada, Tino Martinez, Andy Pettitte. You all sort of came up around the same time and you played together. 2020, Derek Jeter has a chance to get in. Do you think he'll be unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame?
I hope so, man. If it is my vote, he will be unanimous to me. Oh, he is already in my book. So, I mean, I hope so. I don't doubt it, you know. But again, you know, it's such a thin line that some people, because I don't like how he walk, I don't gonna vote for him.
Right.
You know, that's
Did
that's
that? So were you surprised? Listen, I know you're a very humble man, but you knew you were going to be in the Hall of Fame. How surprised were you that you were unanimous? That nobody said, closers today, they don't know 9-out saves. I mean, how surprised were you when you got that news?
I thought that it will be like 99 point something, but one person will be saying, but when they said 425 voters unanimously, I mean, that I was surprised. And to me, it was a blessing.
Tell us about the foundation, the Mariano Rivera Foundation.
Well, the Mariano Rivera Foundation was created in 1998 to support those less fortunate boys and girls, less fortunate that they don't have much. So we believe in give back. We believe that, I remember, you mentioned Puerto Camito, Panama.
Sure.
You know, my father was a fisherman, and we didn't have much. I had to invent my glove. I had to invent my baseball. I had to invent my bat.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, you know, I mean, when I was in the big leagues in '98, I wasn't making any money. A little bit, but not much. Okay, but I believe that we need to do something to give back to the community, and that's why we created the Mariano Rivera Foundation, to give back. And now my biggest challenge right now, that will be my 653 safe.
Oh.
Because I wanted to build a learning center in New Rochelle for those boys and girls, you know. And I believe that if we do that, we're gonna help as many child that we can, you know, make them right, you know, believe that they can do someone different. Because a lot of people point their fingers and tag him. They say, you're not good for anything. You know, well, I was one of those boys.
Yeah.
The people say, even in my hometown, people say, you're not good for anything, you know. But we're here talking about Hall of Fame. The same way that we're talking about those boys and those girls can be one day talking about maybe from the presidency. You don't know.
Yeah.
So that's my reason why I create the Mariano Rivera Foundation, create this T-shirt. This says my story. On the number 42, on the number 4 is from Puerto Caimito all the way to my town, and then to New York, Yankee Stadium, 5 championships, Cooperstown. But you see the dove on the right? That's the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Touching me there in Cooperstown and here in Panama, where I was born.
Congratulations. I appreciate that. That's a good gift.
Congratulations.
This is the first gift.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You got more of these?
That'll fit you. That would probably fit me more.
Thank you.
We got more of these?
Guys.
Mariano, can I just say,
Awesome.
I covered you guys for 4 or 5 years
Yes.
in the clubhouse every night. There were nights that you took a loss. You were still so nice and kind to everyone. One of the really good guys in baseball. So happy that you stopped by. Thank you so much for being here.
Guys.
Congratulations, and congratulations on the foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much more first things first right
Go
now.
Yankees.
Back here, first things first. Time for a piece of paper stained by a cup of coffee. It's also called Nick's List. Nick, today you're ranking the top quarterbacks for 2019. It probably comes as a surprise to you, but go for it on the fly.
We're getting right into it. All right, I'm excited. This, again, it's not about career accomplishments. It's about for this season. Who I would want for this season. I'm trying to pull some arrows out of Cris Carter's quiver before it even starts. Number 7.
Let's go, people.
Dark horse MVP pick. One Baker Mayfield. Ton of weapons. Questions on the offensive line and coaching staff, but those are the only questions on that team. Excellent defense. Was great the second half of last year. I got Baker number 7.
This is the best throwers all time we've ever had in the NFL. For Baker to be number 7, bruh, he must be pretty good.
Number 6, a guy who once upon a time was thought was going to be one of those best throwers we ever had, still might be, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck this season, the way they started 1-5, won 9 of their last 10 games. It was good in the first playoff game, and then the Chiefs just made them look bad. But the culture absolutely on the uptick. Excellent offensive line. Really like the coaching staff there. Love Luck, first full season.
When we do this
in
at the end of the season, don't be surprised if he's in the top 5. He is ready.
Top 5's tough list to crack, because at number 5 is the GOAT. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. This is not disrespectful to Tom Brady. He's the only 42-year-old ever that would be in the top 50, much alone the top 5. But last year, he was carried at times by the running game, by the defense, by the coaching staff. I still trust Tom Brady in the biggest spots as much as or more than anybody, but I think 5 is where he belongs over the course of the season.
Yes, if you equal talent, Tom Brady's always number 1. He is the greatest of all time. Let me see who you have 1 to 4.
Number 4, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson last year, patchwork offensive line. Real questions on skill position guys, running backs, and wide receivers. Still got them to the playoffs. Still got them this close to winning a playoff game, if not for what I thought was an asinine game plan. His worst year of his career. They won 9 games. He's top 5 all-time passer rating and touchdown interception ratio. One of the consistently most underrated players in the league, Russell Wilson.
To me, it's hard to have Sierra's husband too high.
Okay. All right, so we're in agreement there. Number 3, man, if he don't win the MVP this year, it's probably never going to happen for him, Drew Brees. He's going to finish with, he and Tom Brady are going to have every all-time passing record there is. Brady's going to have 6 at least Super Bowls to go along with it, 3 at least MVPs to go along with it. Brees right now, 1 Super Bowl, no MVPs, but we know how great he was, particularly the first dozen games last year. I got him number 3.
I like it.
Number 2, little rejuvenation for one Aaron Rodgers. been considered the most talented quarterback in football of the last decade. He now is a new head coach. No blame to lay at Mike McCarthy's feet. Hopefully the best defense he's had in a few years there. Nobody can question how great of a talent he is, and when healthy, how dominant he can be.
Aaron Rodgers at number 2, given that he didn't have a great season the last couple years, it's out of respect. He's the best thrower of the football, but being on that list at number 2, man, he's going to have to fight to be able to keep that, Nick.
Sure.
Like he's got to have a bounce back
And
season.
I maybe would have had him a little lower, but you've spoken so highly of Matt LaFleur, who I had some questions at watching that offense in Tennessee. If that is an upgrade offensively, it should be better, but we know who number 1 is. Right now, the best quarterback in the NFL, the guy who had the best season last year, the reigning MVP, 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, replete with offensive weapons, Andy Reid's genius scheme, one Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes is he is the best quarterback right now. He is coming off the best season. There are things that you should be concerned about. We talked about it earlier in the segment. How good would that defense be this year? Because you can't be giving up leads like they did. Their defense was awful. At some point, for him to win a championship, that defense has got to be in the top 10. And will they be able to run the ball to be able to protect him after 5,050? It's hard to duplicate that type of success.
And for Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and Philip Rivers fans, just tell me who you'd take off. Probably, I know a lot of you guys would probably say drop off Baker.
Yep.
It's a bit of projection with Baker, but everyone knows good lists are 7 people long, and there's only room for 7 names in a 7-person list. So there it is. 7 quarterbacks heading into 2019.
You agree with it? You like it?
I mean,
you wouldn't switch 4 and 6?
It's a good placement holder for this guy. I mean, I think I should be ranking the quarterback. But I
don't like doing lists. Oh, tomorrow, Chris's list?
I can rank them without doing a list.
Okay.
It's more fun
Chris's
when
rankings?
you see it on fake paper.
No, it's good.
All
It's
right.
good.
Chris's rankings
It's a
tomorrow.
good start.
All right, coming up, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, can he lead the Chiefs to the Super Bowl? That is a conversation we will have still ahead on First Things
That's
First.
an all-time Chris Carter quote. I can rank them without doing a list.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
Back here with Chris Canny. We're going viral. Check out the newest Buck, Kyle Korver, helping the reigning MVP Giannis work on his jump shot. You do it this way, Giannis. No, watch. I'm going to show you. Like that. There.
That is going to be as beneficial to the Bucks as any point Korver scores this season. Korver helped LeBron at least temporarily fix his free throw shooting when he first got to Cleveland. Korver is as good of a pure shooter as we have in league history. And him working with Giannis on fundamentals is awesome. It's one of the reasons the Bucks were so happy to get him.
I don't know where Ben Simmons is, but he need to find his way into that gym, too, with Kyle Korver, see if you can fix that broke jumper.
I thought
ahead,
this
you're
was
up.
definitely one of the points why I wanted to have him on the team. Not only going to space the court, but his overall knowledge of shooting the basketball is one thing. But he's got one of the best shooting routines that's in the NBA. All great shooters have a routine, and there's a reason why we haven't seen Ben Simmons this summer.
And Korver, by the way, I mean, year 17. For him to be in the league, elongate this career like that, it's unbelievable.
Jenna, his cardio workouts and what he does, it's amazing. It's
Korver's.
truly amazing. Yeah, him, Ray Allen, Richard Hamilton, all of them. Long distance running, intervals. Oh, man, read up on it. Check it out.
I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole of athletes now.
Consistent perimeter game,
that was bad news.
he will be on his way to
Correct.
being the best player in the league. No question.
All right,
He will
from
be on his
basketball's
way.
MVP to football's MVP, the
Will
Chiefs opened up training camp yesterday. How do you get better than the best? Well, ask quarterback Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs stud QB coming off a year in which he threw for 50 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards, helped guide the Chiefs to the AFC title game last season. This season, sure, it'll be a challenge to repeat his numbers, but Mahomes says he's more focused on how far his team can go.
I mean, as a competitor, I mean, I'm going out there and trying to be the best quarterback I can be. And I think with the people around me, it's not about me trying to take a next step. It's about me just going within the offense and leaning on my teammates and letting them rise up with me. And I feel like that's something that we're going to try to do as a team, is just build with each other in order to take that next step as an offense and as a team.
He's under the microscope by everybody asking that same question. Is he changed? Has he done this or that? But I think when you're around him, you see that this is what he is. He grew up around this. He grew up around star players, even though it was baseball, and so he's not awed by any of it. He wants to be a great player in the National Football League, and he understands that There's certain things that I've got to take care of. There's a certain foundation I have to be great, and he's maintained that through this offseason.
All right, Cris, what do you think Mahomes' biggest challenge is going to be coming into this season?
Before I dive into that, Jenna, I just want to say I really appreciate Pat Mahomes saying that it's not about the individual accolades. It's about what our team is going to do. It's about trying to have team success at the highest level, because I think that's in part setting the stage for what they're trying to accomplish this season.
But also it's near impossible for him to duplicate what he did last year.
No, he's not going to be able to duplicate what he did last year. I don't think he's going to throw for 50 touchdown passes. I think the biggest challenge for him coming into year 2 as the full-time starter is his ability to be patient, because defensive coordinators have had an offseason to look at what he does well and to scheme around him. He's going to see some different wrinkles, and I think that if I'm a defensive coordinator, I would probably try to take away the big play from the Kansas City Chiefs offense. When you look at Andy Reid, he's one of the most creative minds offensively that our league has seen, and there were a lot of wide-open throws that Pat Mahomes had last year. I think he had 23 touchdown passes to open receivers, an open receiver being classified as 3 yards of separation or more. He's got over 1,500 yards passing on throws of 20 yards or more downfield. They led the NFL in yards per play. They led the NFL in points, but they were 12th in time of possession. So this was a big play, quick strike offense. This is going to be an adjustment for Pat Mahomes going into year 2. Is he going to be patient? Can he take the check down? Will he allow this offense to morph into a team that can make a defense die the death of 1,000 cuts? We know Tom Brady can do it. We know Drew Brees can do it. Can Pat Mahomes do it? I think that remains to be seen. I think that's going to be his biggest challenge, because you see the physical attributes. There isn't a throw on the football field he can't make. But I think his biggest opportunity for growth will be understanding when not to take those types of chances.
Yeah, when you're a high-level performer, it really gets fairly simple. He needs to be worried about himself. All right? He don't know nothing about running routes. He knows a little bit about reading coverages, and Andy Reid's calling all the plays. People, they get all this stuff, or they believe that, you know something, it's about this guy, it's about this guy. You know what it's about? It's about him. He better make sure that he's getting better. He better make sure that he's staying on top of his game. He better make sure that he's making the right reads. He better be ready for more blitz pickup. He better be ready to throw the ball away more. Yes, those numbers, no, he's not going to duplicate those numbers, but thinking that every NFL season is going to be like last season, it would be a mistake. So Patty Mahomes, people are going to ask you questions about all these other guys, but don't forget, the team starts with you. Even though it's a team sport, you have to take care of your own individual business. When he's throwing this offseason, he's not throwing to most of his teammates most of the time. So it's about him. It's about his arm angle, him developing a touch, him being more methodical. And to me, that defense plays a huge part, and the running game. What if they get a team that's only going to play a big defense? They're going to play 8 in the box. Will they decide to switch up the game plan, and Patty Mahomes be satisfied with that? Because we know the elite of the elite. Drew Brees in recent years, he changed it up from throwing 50 times a game to now they got more balance. Tom Brady, all the way through the playoffs, early in his career, whatever the coaches decide. So with Patty Mahomes, that becomes very, very important.
So for Mahomes this year, he was very lucky in one regard last year. A lot of potential interceptions dropped or knocked out of the defender's hands.
Yes.
He threw 12 picks. And that's not a terrible number. That could have been closer to 20. Now, when you throw 50 touchdowns, you can almost deal with that. But he's got to be a little more careful with the ball.
There were 10 other opportunities where the defenders had their hands on the ball. Tony Dungy used to always teach, get your hand on the ball some type of way, it will lead to a turnover. Those 10 didn't lead to turnovers, but
that's the most in the league as far as potential turnovers that weren't turnovers. That's just interception luck. That's fun. That's luck of the short sample size of the season. So he's got to be more careful with that. And we saw that bite him in spots where instead of throwing the ball away, tried to make the spectacular play, because so often they did make the spectacular play. But for the Chiefs to take the next step next year, it is to me far less about Patrick Mahomes and far more about the defense. Last season they lost 5 games. Seattle beat them pretty soundly. The other 4 games, Chargers, Chiefs are up 14 points late. Chargers score 15 in a row, including a 2-point conversion as time expires. The game against New England, the first one, they're down 15 at the half. They end up tying the game with 3 minutes left. defense can't hold. The playoff game against New England, down 14 at the half. They have a lead with 2 minutes left. Defense can't hold. That Chargers, the Rams game, pardon me. Patty Mahomes had 5 turnovers. They still found a way to claw back in, got a lead with 3 minutes left. The defense couldn't hold. So will the addition of Frank Clark, will the addition of Tyrann Mathieu, will the change at defensive coordinator, will that be enough to overcome what is a very pedestrian group of corners? I would argue not the most stout run defense in the league. In fact, far from it. Maybe one of the least stout run defenses in the league, because the offense, okay, maybe it won't be the 3rd best offense in league history or top 10 offense in league history. It's going to be one of the 5 best offenses in the league this coming season, assuming Patty Mahomes plays all 16 games. Will the defense do its part? That, to me, is the question that will determine, can the Chiefs make it back to the AFC Championship game or further, much more than a potential statistical regression from Patrick Mahomes, which I think everyone expects because last year the numbers were so off the charts.
Well, it would have been a regression for sure if Tyreek Hill did not come back and join this team. How much does he help, Mahomes' comfort level, Mahomes' confidence, just starting the year off kind of where they left off last year?
Well, I mean, just having his speed on the field makes a huge difference in terms of what the defense is going to do. I mean, he's the guy that dictates front and coverage from a skill position standpoint with that Kansas City Chiefs offense. So the fact that you have to account for him with 2 defenders, it changes the math. It makes things a little bit easier for Pat Mahomes. But still, I think that based on what we saw last year, you can't say that they're going to be able to pick up and continue to have that same level of production just because defensive coordinators will have answers. Now, to your point, Nick, about the change in the defensive coordinator, going to Spags, I think could be beneficial for this group because when you look at when you change coordinators or change schemes, I think that guys automatically become dialed in because they're learning. It's not something that's assumed. They're not complacent because they've been in the scheme for multiple years. So that could be beneficial for that defensive side of the ball. They got to get Chris Jones taken care of. Yeah. He wants new money, so we'll see how that contract negotiation works out. But I look at this defense and I say to myself, see, it can't be much worse than it was last year. They were 31st in defense last year. And so they did upgrade the talent on the front end and the talent on the back end. That group has to improve. But this is still going to be a team that's led by their offense. And like you said, it all starts with Pat Mahomes being able to have individual success. So I think he has to understand what his team needs, what they have to do with each respective game plan each and every week, what he's going to be asked to do. Sometimes he's going to want to take a chance. He's got to fight that urge to take a chance in certain situations because they can't afford for him to turn the ball over and put that defense in a tight spot. So I think that his decision-making and his patience will be to the test this year, and how he handles that aspect of his game will determine whether the Kansas City Chiefs are able to get past the conference championship into the Super Bowl.
This group of skill guys, they might go on to have 5 or 6 great years in a row like they did in Pittsburgh. But there's only one player on their offense skilled, and that's Travis Kelce, that's had more than 2 seasons. All right? So let's not think Patty Mahomes been doing this for 20 years. Let's not think Tyreek Hill been doing this for 20. No, their breakout seasons were both last year. Kelce's been the most consistent over the last several years. He's the best tight end in football. Without Tyreek Hill, they don't have another proven wide receiver. Sammy Watkins, so the question you asked, man, Tyreek Hill, he was huge to be able to get him back. If you want Patty Mahomes not to dip back, if you want to try to get close to those numbers, Tyreek Hill, it was impossible if they didn't get him back for a full 16-game schedule to be able to duplicate the offense success because he does so many things in the running game, deep passing game that opens up things for the rest of them.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.